All right. Hello, everyone. Good morning. How are you doing? This is the evidence of the number of people that are here this morning versus yesterday. I feel like we know people were out kind of late last night having a good time, which is fantastic. Thank you to everybody who was able to still wake up at a normal hour and make it here for our first sessions. And of course, to be able to be here for our first speaker today, which we're honored to have. We have Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson in the house. So I'm going to do a very brief introduction because I think we just want to hear from Mayor Johnson. But for folks who are from out of town and don't know much about Mayor Johnson, I'm going to give a really brief overview. So this Mayor Johnson is the son of a pastor and one of 10 siblings. He was raised on a foundation of hard work, faith, and service. Mayor Johnson started as a school teacher, like so many people in this room, then an organizer for the Chicago Teachers Union, yes, and then was elected in 2018 as commissioner of the 1st District of Cook County. And just a few short weeks ago, he was elected as the mayor of Chicago. Welcome, Mayor Johnson.
Wow, thank you. Good morning. Well, at least I know Chicago made it here this morning on time, because if we have outside folks from the city of Chicago clapping that loudly for me, then I'm really going to feel good about myself. But I am so grateful for you all and your attendance. And how are you all enjoying Chicago? Those of you from out of town? Yeah. So go ahead and start looking at property now and go ahead and resituate yourself, because I'm going to say something that is not as controversial as it's going to sound. But the city of Chicago truly is the greatest city in the world. Yeah, well, now I know how many people live in Chicago are here, because the applause got a lot smaller. So, but thank you. And again, of course, welcome to the city of Chicago. We are truly honored to host this year's Basic Income Guaranteed Conference. And what an incredible testament to you all's commitment to economic justice for the people of Chicago and those around the country. You know, of course, I want to thank Income Movement and the many organizations and volunteers who planned this incredible event. The conversations we are having and the momentum we are building is so important to so many lives. You know, as many as you know, while Chicago is a tremendous city, like many large cities around this country, opportunities and the ability to access economic growth and prosperity has been historically difficult, particularly for Black and brown women. And the legacy, of course, of racist policies and the divisive nature of politics in this particular political climate have left many of our communities in tremendous despair. In fact, poverty, abject poverty and trauma is one of the most isolating, debilitating experiences that one could ever endure. And growing up in a household, as has been expressed, with 9 brothers and sisters, my parents were also foster parents, and only having one bathroom, well, let's just say I'm prepared to be the mayor of the city of Chicago. But you all also recognize that the disparities that show up economically show up in health outcomes. They show up in our education system. They show up throughout our neighborhoods around this country. And having served as a public school teacher, starting my teaching career in Cabrini Green, USA, one of the most remarkable neighborhoods in the world, I can tell you, when students wake up and look outside their back windows and they can see one of the wealthiest neighborhoods in the world, downtown, while bulldozers stared them down every single morning. That's the type of economy that too many of our families have had to endure, where wealth is behind them and everything in front of them is crumbling. But thank God for the work that you all are doing, because you are putting an end to these tales of two cities, and we are ushering in a more dynamic, prosperous economy by giving people a guarantee that their lives have meaning. So thank you all again for that work. Now, as been stated, to correct these disparities and the injustices that have lived on for too long, your bold vision and the investments that you are making are literally transforming lives. I remember growing up, and we were not considered poor, we were considered low income. I know the feeling of having an orange extension cord from one neighbor's window to ours in order to make sure that electricity is moving. And somehow we managed to hold our heads up high and focus our attention on education to the best of our ability, but I can tell you that's not easy. In fact, in many instances, it's darn near impossible. But that's the type of economy that has been allowed to be pervasive for too long, where children wake up every single day in these horrific conditions, and mothers and fathers are going to work every single day, and the ends still do not meet. But thanks to your advocacy, all of you in this audience, the partnerships, of course, that we made with City Council, the hard work of our civil servants, the implementation partners, you're doing God's work. And I know that not just because I was raised by a pastor, but that my father was also a carpenter, so he was basically Jesus. And as many of you know, last June, 5,000 residents received $500 a month, unrestricted cash assistance. Unrestricted cash assistance means that we trust people and we provide them with the flexibility and choice in their public benefits to determine the best way to meet their household needs. So it's not just about the guarantee, it's about the trust that families know what to do with their resources when it comes to their lives. So building a city that is prosperous, where no one should be too poor to live in one of the richest cities in one of the wealthiest countries at the richest time in the history of the world. That is the transformation that we are making. And I want to affirm that my administration is committed to not just expanding, but exploring other opportunities of bold, progressive policies, not just with guaranteed income, but I'm talking about guaranteed access to a fully funded neighborhood school, guaranteed access to health care, good paying jobs, affordable housing. I'm talking about living out their best potential because government is prepared to partner with corporations to do right by the people of Chicago. That's what my administration brings to this conversation, and that's why we are the greatest city in the world. Now, as many of you all know, in closing, that we do have difficult days that are in front of us, but there aren't challenges that we can't overcome. And as you all continue to build the capacity for families around this country, know that the city of Chicago stands shoulder to shoulder alongside of you all, because we know that these type of investments speak to who we are. In fact, we call it the soul of Chicago. So I want you to enjoy yourself, spend as much money as you possibly can, drink in about 2 more hours, and then let's begin to look for property in the city of Chicago so that you can call it your home. Thank you all again. God bless you.
Have a great rest of your day. Wonderful. Thank you, Mayor Johnson. Woohoo! You guys fired up? You ready? All right. So opening remarks this morning are actually pretty brief, but I wanted to do a couple of things. I was thinking it would be good for us to do a little bit of kind of summarizing or reflecting on yesterday, and last night as I was doing that, I thought about 2 different kind of pieces of what got discussed. The first was, at the very beginning of yesterday, we thanked our sponsors, which was awesome. They are the financial capital that helps us do this work and come together every year. But I thought today, this morning, we would talk about the other kind of capital that's required in order for us to do this work, which is the human capital, the energy, the emotion, the skills, the perseverance, the care. And so I'm going to spend a minute or 2 chatting a little bit about that, and then we'll get into an overview of what we're going to cover today around programming. So this, I think it's probably a little bit evident after yesterday, but this conference is done on a shoestring. like a shoestring. And because of that, that means that the vast majority of things that if we had big budgets, we would just hire somebody to do. We'd hire caterers to come, and we'd hire people, we kind of dig down and do it ourselves. Right now, there's people who are bringing in water and sodas and things because they went to a Target and loaded up a Lyft car with a whole bunch of stuff because we went through so much stuff yesterday, which is awesome. But those are the kinds of things that are happening behind the scenes, and it's happening with an amazing and dedicated group of people, so I want to actually introduce them. So if anybody, folks who are on the organizing committee, if you guys can come in, I know you're all actually trying to unload Lyft cars, but I'm going to actually call each of them out. So, Paige Havner, who is actually just an amazing, dedicated grassroots organizer living in New York City. They've been doing amazing work at almost any and all public gatherings to promote basic income. Worked on several different campaigns of Paige. Worked on campaigns with Congress members who were running on basic income. Massive dedication. We have Conrad Shaw, who you're about to watch some film work that he's been doing, running pilots and filming the whole thing, as well as all kinds of other things. He could give you the full list. Hala Ahmed from Jain Family Institute. Larry Cohen, who is somewhere. He's been involved in all the things, and he's the one that was running around and making sure we got as much food to people as possible yesterday. Mara Cuffy Peterson, which we all remember, the dynamic and amazing from Creatives Rebuild. Chelsea Wilkinson, who's part of the Income Movement team. Ari Noguchi, who is actually back behind a monitor. There she is. She's been running the live stream and making sure people all around the country and the world can watch. Hannah Wan, who is just an amazing, amazing manager of everything. She's written every email that's gone out, including the one that for some reason this morning had a whole bunch of stuff crossed out, so apologize for that. Eventbrite doesn't like us to actually do any kind of formatting on our emails. Dylan Belial, who actually I don't think is able to be here today because his father passed away and he could only be here yesterday. Today is the celebration of life. Naja Gordon, who's also part of Mayors for Guaranteed Income. And then Erica Wright and June Hayworth Kafka, who are also part of the Income Movement team. So let's give a round of applause for all of these folks. Woohoo! We also have an advisory committee that met quarterly to help us make big decisions like what are the themes going to be for this, who are the right folks that are in our community that might be able to add to conversations, connecting us to community members, connecting us to the mayor, broad range of ways for them to be able to support and make sure that we were kind of staying on track and making the best decisions and choices for the broader community. If you're on the advisory committee, can you stand up real quick? We have Jeremy, Leah, Scott, Mike, Sarah. So as we move into today, I thought that it would just be worth us, taking a little time to think about the folks that are behind this, and then start to transition into thinking about the folks that we're actually designing our policy for. And that is why we are starting today's session in an empathy policy working session. So I can speak a little bit to what that's all about. From our perspective, and of course yesterday we actually heard this pretty consistently, that it's critical when it comes time to designing policy that we are not only thinking about, but centering and having at the table the folks in our community who we are designing this for. Today is all about policy. This is our policy day. We're going to go deep. And so we're going to start today with a working session where you're actually going to have an opportunity to look deeply at one or two people, understand their experiences, understand their challenges, their joys, and have conversations with pilots who are supporting folks that are similar to that person so that you can ask lots of questions. You'll be able to just have a conversation and learn as much as you feel like you can in the time that we have. And then everybody is going to actually take a quick survey and design policy for that person and make some decisions so that we can actually come together later and look at the results of that survey and start to think about what happens when we aren't thinking at all about what's possible right now, or what electeds would actually help us get this thing passed or anything, but what if we really just designed a piece of policy for the people that we want to have be able to access basic income? So we'll do that. We'll come back together to bridge the kind of community piece into the more kind of advocacy policy piece. We're actually going to do a screening of Building the Floor, which is awesome. It'll be in here all together. The filmmakers here will be able to ask some questions. And then we'll move straight into a plenary to do a little bit of context framing for policy, talk a little bit more about where we're at right now and maybe some visioning of where we might go. And then the rest of the day is breakouts where we get to hear from a lot of different folks, researchers, folks who are doing work at the state level, local level, folks who are doing deep work in reforming and improving and integrating direct cash with the existing social safety net, all of the things. So that's what we're doing today. Are you all excited? All right. So that's basically all I have to say. So now I'm gonna do some directions. So everybody has a lanyard, and probably the majority of you actually have a little number down in the bottom left corner, or right, depending on how you're looking at it. Mine is 240. We're gonna divide you up for this working session by numbers, just so that we can make sure that people are pretty evenly dispersed. So find your number. And now I'm going to tell you where you need to go based on where your number is, okay? Anybody who has a number 1 through 100, if this is you, you're here. You don't need to go anywhere. If you have numbers 101 to 175, you're going to be in Gallery 1, which is the very first room down the hall. If you're 176 to 250, you're in the second gallery room where you have to go through. And then if you're higher than 250, you're upstairs in the solarium. So like I said, what we're about to do is we're gonna watch a little film clip that is from the Bootstraps, and there'll be somebody introducing a little bit more about it. Bootstraps film docuseries that actually ran a pilot for 20 plus individuals across the country and filmed the entire experience. And so you're gonna get to see the stories of 4 of those folks and start designing some policy for them. So we're gonna have a little video showing as we kind of get up and move around to our rooms that highlights some of the work that's happening at Springboard. I think Springboard for the Arts, or is it yeah, okay, thank you. I was like, it's Springboard for the Arts, right? Yeah. So the video will start. You guys can stay in here and watch and then leave, or you can just kind of get up and mingle, get coffee, because I think there's more coffee now, and move to your rooms, and then we'll get started. Thanks, you guys.